All right, how are you doing? Here's hoping that all is well with you from every part of the world you are watching us. Definitely time that aims at putting on the table some of the main issues that concern us on a day-to-day basis, just for us to make sense of them and just to try and have a conversation around those particular issues. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Now tonight we continue on a conversation that we had a few weeks ago that we were also supposed to do or have last Sunday, but due to unavoidable circumstances, due to illness, I was not able to be on the program, and so we were not able to have this conversation. It's a continuation of the conversation on breaking the silence on sexual related violence, and of course specifically we'll also be looking at matters concerning rape. And the question we're asking ourselves is, why do most of these cases go unreported? Why do they take long for people to come out and start saying that they were assaulted, they were raped? Some cases going back as far as 2012, some way back further than that. So we'll be that right here on this particular program. Also, let me just take you through some infographic on the information that we have so far concerning this particular matter as far as gender-based violence cases are concerned. Those that were received and handled in the first quarter of 2017 and 2018, this is definitely what you can see right now on the screen. We have the crime, we have the cases received, the number of suspects categorized in the male and female category, plus of course those cases that were handled, those that were filed with the courts, those that were closed, and of course any number that is concerning the transferred cases. It's all here, right here. And as you can see, child defilement coming in at number one, 702 cases, and of course 689 of those cases were perpetrated by males and 15 females. And of course, when you look at this particular situation of child defilement, 310 cases were actually filed in the courts, and out of these 310 cases, 125 of those particular cases have been closed. None of them were transferred, and bringing us to a total of 435 cases filed, plus of course closed. And when we look at the pending cases, 267, and this is accounting to 62%. This is the and that were received. And if you come and look at out of the received cases, the numbers that were actually taken or filed within the courts of law, 35 of those particular cases, and only 30 actually out of the 35 were closed. And this tells us that we have actually around 46 of the cases that were actually pending. These, when it comes to harassment of spouses, that is the number 213. Let's take a look at another interesting figure right here. This is the percentage as far as the conviction rate is concerned in percentage. Now, when you look at the cases of rape, 78.50% of the convictions, child defilement 87.90%, harassment of spouse 95%, accumulating to around 88.50%. Let's also look at another important figure that will also help us right here as far as this matters of the response to matters of dealing with gender-based violence, specifically on sexual harassment. One, we need to have more awareness raised for prevention purposes, and of course two, reporting early, strong and smart investigations. Let's take a bit of time to talk about this number two, because we have heard about this issue of people reporting late in time. We'll be able to talk about that on this particular program. And of course, justice at number 6, specialized judges. We'll hear from the prosecution's office what this actually would entail if it is done. And of course, reintegration of victims and suspects, how that can be done to deal with this particular issue. Also, something very important to talk about is on this particular area of punishing of rapists in Rwanda. Today, as we speak, Article 146 of the Draft Penal Code is actually saying that when convicted by a court, one is liable to life imprisonment, and that cannot be mitigated for any circumstance if the defilement is committed against a child under 10 years. The rest are the punishments for the different categories. If the defilement is committed against a child above 16, the penalty becomes a term of imprisonment not less than 10 years and less than 15 years. Interestingly, also, marital rape, it's also something that most people have actually talked about, and some people have complained about the small punishment. Currently, any person who commits marital rape is liable to a term of imprisonment of at least 2 months, but not more than 6 months. Definitely, these are information that is actually being updated. The marital rape will attract between 10 to 15 years of imprisonment upon conviction, according to the draft penal code, which was passed by Parliament a couple of weeks ago. This is also something very interesting to talk about right here on this particular program. So definitely there you have it. These are the numbers, these are the statistics as far as these issues of gender-based violence and sexual, to be specific, are concerned. Let me introduce our panelists on the program. We have none other than Chizanye Allen, the Executive Secretary of the Gender Monitoring Office. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Also with us we have from the Security Forces ACP, Linda Nguranga from the Rwanda Police. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
And also with us on the program is Judy Kaila Irakoze, who's the founder of Choose Yourself. And of course, she'll be telling us a bit more about this. And also with us is none other than Dr. Charity Wibabara, who is from the National Prosecution Office. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Now, ladies, I mean, this is an issue that most people, especially after the first show that we had a few weeks ago, some felt that, most of the panelists that were here were out of touch of the real issues on the ground, because everybody was telling us how the systems are there, everything is there, ready to actually help people to report on cases, but we still see or hear of these cases. I want to start with you, Alan, from the Gender Monitoring Office. Is there a crisis, as some people might perceive, or do you feel that these are normal situations, normal scenarios, and everything is being handled as required?
Thank you, Anangwe, and thank you, the panelists. Of course, we can't say that this is normal, because, as you know, sexual violence and rape in particular is a crime under Rwandan law, as we have seen as per the provisions of the penal code. So even if we have one case of rape or SGBV, we don't take it normal. Again, looking at how this is affecting our communities, how this is affecting our Rwandan people, especially women and girls. I insist on women and girls because, as you saw the numbers, the bigger number of victims are women and girls. So this is an issue, but we have institutions in place. I followed the previous discussions in phase 1, and it was like, why do we have systems in place and things are not working? From a monitoring perspective, I can say that things are working. We are working as key actors in this area to punish these crimes, to make the public aware on the issues, because when they are not aware, they don't report. I think I have to come back to the issue of reporting. People are not reporting because of the familial mindset, the community mindset, and some are making it a family issue. And you find the perpetrator and the family of the victim are negotiating or not reporting. And when we don't report, the victims are not going to get services on time, and the perpetrators are going to go unpunished.
So are you confident in the rate at which people are reporting? Are you confident at the level of the breaking of silence? Is this something that makes the Gender Monitoring Office feel that at least there's progress?
I think there's progress on reporting, but we have to report more. We have to make people aware more, such that the reporting goes higher. And when it goes higher, then the service providers are able to support the victims and are able to criminalize the perpetrators, because this is a crime that shouldn't go unpunished. And when we don't report, definitely the perpetrators go unpunished.
Right.
And from a monitoring perspective, we would urge the community, we would urge the families, the victims to report and report on time, because when you don't report on time, even evidences get lost. So in order to preserve these evidences and be able to access available services, it's important that we report and report on time.
Report on
and
time.
Also report to relevant institutions, because sometimes you may report and your reporting is not going to help, because maybe you reported to a person that is not going to help. So,
right. Let me pick it from there and talk to Afande Linda. I mean, she speaks of reports to the relevant institutions. And of course, this was also an issue in the last conversation where, one of the panelists was saying, going on social media is not actually going to help you. You need to report to the police. And actually, if you stay longer with your cases, then it means that you could be having ulterior motives as to why you're coming out many years later. I want to hear from you from the perspective of the security organs, whether this is also an issue that you would be supporting such a statement, or is it something that you'd be saying that, you know what, you can report on social media or other channels, it doesn't really matter?
Thank you very much. Let me, right from the onset, say that breaking the silence, yes, we have to break the silence. And we have to use all the available channels to break the silence. There's one thing, however, we should be careful about. I think being the police, being the prosecutor, being the judge, and also being the executor is very unfair. Yes, we agree that social media is one of the channels where we should report crimes. But then, you should not be the whole judicially, the whole process of the judiciary. So that is why we have to be careful about. Because once you put somebody's name in public, it's like you're becoming now the whole system. You've become the police, you investigated the crime, you've become the prosecutor, you've also become the judge, and also you're going ahead to execute your judgment. One thing I should mention here is that we know that we really have to do much more to respond to these crimes of sexual violence and to bring the perpetrators to justice. We know that we really need to do much more, that we have to end the crimes of sexual violence. We know that rape, defilement, or sex has nothing to do with sex. Mm-hmm. It has everything to do with abuse of power. It is a criminal behavior. Now, when we're talking about breaking the silence, when we are silent in the face of a crime, we allow it to grow and we allow it to flourish, and that is very bad. Silence is very powerful. We need to bring the perpetrators, because when we keep silent, the perpetrators will benefit because they will not be brought to justice. And then, when the silence will also affect the victim now, and it is going to encourage the criminal behavior
to continue.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Judy Kaila, for you, you've been out there on social media. You say whatever you want to say. You do whatever you want to do on social media. And I want to hear, why do you feel a majority of people like you are choosing to go and break the silence on social media and ignore what Ellen talked about earlier on, reporting to the relevant institutions, the traditional institutions that we all know you need to go to if your case has to be taken seriously?
I actually think the question should be, if everything is well, why are people going to social media? If we have all these institutions really ready to help people, why are people running to social media? That should actually be the question. Why are women feeling free and very ready to speak about their experiences on social media instead of going to the police or instead of going to gender monitoring cases? So we need to talk about that actually. And social media in this time has become a platform where not only your voice is heard, but many other women are ready to back you up and say, we can name your narrative, we can, through your experience.
But we have the Gender Monitoring Office. gender monitoring office actually that deals specifically on gender issues, why would you decide to say, you know what, the others, we have the police, it's there, the prosecution office is there. Why would people or you
That's
feel
the
that
question
social
actually
media
want us
is...
to talk about.
Yes,
Why?
tell me about it.
Why are people going to social media? I think for me is because on social media, they are allowed to get their voice heard and heard in their way. So if I decide to go to the police and the police is asking me for evidences that I'm not ready to find, and I can go on social media and make my voice heard to make sure that there is not going to be any other victim, I'm going to do it to release my pen. Let's talk about rape being a complex case. Rape is a complex case. So, and we live in a culture of silence. We have to acknowledge that. We are raised to be silent as women. We are raised to keep our experiences to ourselves as women. That's our culture. So me to be able to go out there and tell everybody, oh, I have been raped. Me to go and tell the police, oh, I have been raped, and go through all that stress of proving that I've been raped, I would rather go on social media and be anonymous and speak my truth instead of going through that process. So my question actually should be to all of us, how can we build spaces where those women, instead of going to social media, they run to us, they run onto all these institutions, and we make sure their voices are heard.
Right.
That's the case.
I mean, has there been a failure in creating those safe spaces for victims to run to that they are now choosing to go to social media, as she's saying? Do you think she represents the true nature of what is actually happening on the ground, what the reality is, the signs that things are not well? Much as we're saying we have these organs, we have these channels, we have the office of the prosecutor, we have the gender monitoring office, we have the police, but look, cases are there. Some people are going to social media.
Thank you very much. I don't think that is the issue around. We are not having any problem with institutional mechanisms in place. We are not even having problems in the laws. We have also laws in place here, like you presented before.
So where's the issue? What's the problem?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So the issue is attached to the crime itself, child defilement and rape. There's that social stigma that is attached to it. The culture that is attached to it. People don't reveal what happened, even when they are doing it legally. So imagine when someone has been raped, when someone has gone under child defilement, it's not going to be easy for them to say, this happened to me. And that could cause frustration. So after a long time, when they are overcoming the trauma that they've been going through, that's when they choose to report, and all evidence is gone, like my colleagues were presenting. So they will opt for different things, because if they go to different mechanisms, the evidence has disappeared. Reason as to why my colleagues were arguing early reporting for preservation of evidence. So they go to social media. My take on social media, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there are three things that are going to result from reporting on social media. There are consequences on the victim himself or herself, there are consequences on the suspect, but also on the investigations. The consequences that I would say would happen to the victim herself or himself is she's going to put herself in danger, because if she reports something on social media, the potential perpetrators or suspects can look for her and kill her.
But she says what is now the new trend is anonymity. You create a fake account, but then you go and then you report someone. And so they feel this is the safety net that they have.
How anonymous can it be? You cannot trust that anonymity, that you cannot discover who did it. At least there is someone or some institution she has communicated to. So you cannot trust that anonymity unless if it is an institution that has been designed for that. For instance, at the National Public Prosecution Authority, when we receive our victims, we have a Witness and Victim Protection Unit. There are specialized prosecutors and other officials that are trained to do that. They even put them to safe houses because they know the suspects or the perpetrators have also ways of discovering them, and in a way of tampering with evidence, they would end up even killing or causing different threats to the victims. So I don't believe that anonymity, that it would be sufficient for someone who is looking for you, for someone who is searching you to cause danger.
Right.
Then the other point, the danger that it could be causing to the suspect. Remember, social media does not determine guilt or innocence. It has to be through the court process. So if you expose someone on social media, it could be true that person could be the one who raped or who did the child defilement, but not necessarily. What if you're having a grudge or some other issues and you want to to tarnish someone's name. So you could end up tarnishing someone's name on social media, which cannot be retrieved. It has to go through a court process to get justice. So the victim is not going to get justice, but also the potential suspect, because social media is not the one that determines or that gives justice. And remember, social media, we don't get our evidence as the prosecution or the judges. We don't get our evidence from social media. Perhaps it could influence to carry out an investigation, but we are never influenced by the public opinion. Yes, we work for the public, but we have legal procedures, we have laws in place, we have what to follow, we have evidence to go by, but not influenced by social media.
So all that noise that took place a few weeks ago on social media concerning the revelations or the allegations of rape having taken place as far as 2012, back then, it was all for nothing?
Yeah, to be sincere, that is not going to be evidence we are going to base on. It could influence our investigations, but for us, we base on substantial evidence. So the public opinion doesn't matter because there are legal procedures that we have to follow.
Right. Alan, I mean, some people are wondering if your institutions works for the benefit of the public and for their sake. I mean, she says for us, we're looking at evidence, that is what will help us. But at least your institution, you'd say, you know, public perception, talking to people, quelling some tensions when people are actually making noise concerning something. And they're wondering why the office of the gender monitor, the gender monitoring office was quiet and is still quiet up to today. And unless if whatever was being talked about was not good enough to help in the campaign of poking and making more people come out, talk, report your cases, and we will support you to go out there and actually defend your cases, help you with gathering evidence. Why is there silence from the GMO?
Thank you, Anangwe. I think, as my colleague said, the social media is not a good platform to report, especially when you're reporting a GBV case, a defilement case, a rape case. So the Gender Monitoring Office having been quiet, I think we haven't received any case in the previous years relating to what was reported on the social media.
Whatever, even hearsay is not enough for you guys?
Not enough. Because we have different institutions. We have the police working on investigation. We have the prosecution office doing its prosecution law. And we have also the gender monitoring office that is coming in on an accountability point of view, where we receive complaints from the victims that were not satisfied with the services that were given by the police, by the prosecution, by the local government, and we haven't received such a case. We also have a toll-free line where you report and nobody will know that you reported your case to Gender Monitoring Office. And I think the social media was not a good platform for us. And actually, we couldn't comment on that because the police was doing its role. If you followed well, the police came in to say that we are working on this case. So we couldn't come in as a Gender Monitoring Office to react on what is trading on the social media.
So when will you come in? Or at what point does the Gender Monitoring Office come in?
Actually, I would urge all victims that have not been satisfied with the services given to come to Gender Monitoring Office to report, because we are working for the public. Actually, we are working for these victims. We are there to ensure that the victims are getting quality services and ensuring that the perpetrators are being punished for the crimes committed. So maybe we need to change the approach. How do we report? When do we report, and how do we come in as a relevant institution to support whoever reports to us, to ensure that these people, these victims, are getting quality services. And Anangwe, I can assure you, you won't go to the police, you won't go to the prosecution, to Gender Monitoring Office and other actors, and you fail to get the services, because we are all there for that. We are there to help victims, we are there to ensure that our communities are safe.
Right. ACP Linda, I'd love to hear from you, because if we can just speak to a few people who probably feel that we were on the right track as far as encouraging more people to break the silence. Yes, they may have not used the right channels, but at least for some people, they are arguing that at least it's the right step in the right direction of breaking the silence. And probably someone sitting back at home or wherever they are watching, and they want to know how far, what can we be able to be shown or told by police to assure us that if someone else is out there and would love to break the silence, then they will be heard based on how far they have reached concerning those two incidences that were reported a few weeks ago.
Well, sexual violence is one of the high-impact crimes that when they are reported to police, they are taken very seriously and they're investigated very seriously. When a victim comes to report any case to the police, they get all the support. They are supported. Last show you had, we had one of the doctors, they were talking about the Isange one-stop centers. A lot of measures, a lot of mechanisms have been put in place, including the one-stop centers, which is victim-centered, which is a multi-sectoral, which is a multidisciplinary approach, where you get all the services once you get there. And like I said, it is victim-oriented. You get all the services in one place. So once you get there, you are assured that you will have your case investigated, you will have the counselors, you have the doctors to get the legal, the forensic evidence which will support what you're saying. Because one of the challenges that we have in these cases, they are normally committed in private spaces. So at the end of the day, it's going to be one's word against the other. So you will need evidence to support what you're saying. So we really have the channels, like they said, and they're really working. And the question is not whether we should report through social media, because that is okay, as long as you don't, as long as you report to police, and as long as you don't, you don't want to become the whole judicial, like I earlier mentioned, the judicial, the whole system, and also to the presumption of innocence, which is a principle that we should abide by.
Right. And she spoke and said that there is no problem of institutions. It's not an institutional problem. So where is the problem, in your opinion?
Now, in my opinion, it is the silence, which we mentioned about, which we said the culture of silence. The culture of silence. I don't see the shame. There's no ignominy. There's no disgrace in being a victim of sexual violence. I think shame is on the perpetrators. Shame is on the aggressors. So people should come forward and report those cases to police. They should come and report those cases to all the available institutions that are there to support them. So one of the problems that we have, or one of the challenges, would be the delay in reporting when we fail to get evidence. And secondly, when people feel that that is a private affair, that is, they feel the stigma, I understand, they feel that kind of shame. Sometimes they even believe that they will not be believed by the police, or they will get less help from the police, which is not the case. So I think what we have to do is to encourage people to come out and to speak up, and that is a role for each one of us. It's not a blame game. It's not who is not doing what, but what is it that
all of us can do.
All of us can do.
Right. Judy Kala, I mean, she said, the problem that we have today is definitely an issue whereby we have institutions already, actually, that are actually dealing with those issues, but some people are not reporting to us. I mean, Afande also says the problem, number one, is the silence and the silent culture, which you also mentioned. But I want to hear from you, from a person who's outside of these institutions that are represented here today. I want to hear your perception on how that problem is being dealt with, how that problem of breaking that silence, what are the institutions doing about it? I want to hear what you think on that line.
Listening to all of them, they keep telling us that we have an institution ready to help you. I bet all women know that those institutions exist. They know. So those institutions being there available for them were not enough for them to break the silence to those institutions. That's the problem. So we need to talk about the culture of silence. That is the problem. In a community, in a society where sex is a taboo, where we are conditioned to stay silent as women. So you're not going to tell me those institutions exist for you. Come and open myself to me. So we need to talk on how we are going to break silence. We need to talk on how we are going to tell the woman to come and report. Not telling them all those institutions exist. We know they exist. I bet every woman knows they exist. But there is that problem that where I feel instead of going to the police, I want to go to social media and be anonymous and talk about my pen. That is the real issue. So here is what I think, honestly, coming from an honest point of view.
Yes.
We should not tell victims how to deal with their pain. You should not go and tell a person who's going through rape, you should have come to the police when it happened. You should not either tell a person who is enduring pain, oh, I expected you to come to this institution when it happened. So since we should not tell people how to live their pain, we should take them going to social media as a good step. So we should then realize if 3 people were able to come out and speak about cases, how about 10 more? How about 20 more? How about 50 more who are not able to talk? How about the woman who's not able to talk about being raped by her husband or being raped by her uncle? So how are we going to help her? Are we going to tell the woman, oh, the institution exists, come? Are you going to tell a woman to come and report her uncle? Are you going to tell a kid to come and report her father? Are you going to tell a wife to come and report her husband? This is the problem. The problem isn't institution. They exist. They all exist. We know they exist. So let's talk about the real issue. How are we going to break silence? That is what we should talk about. In what way are we going to break silence? So when the women come, we have enough evidences, because most of the cases, women decide to come out when they have dealt with their pain, maybe after 3 or 4 years, and there is no evidences beside their own words against the accuser. And at the end of the day, as she said, they end up not having enough evidences to pursue the cases. So now, how are we going to break the silence? Knowing there are many available tools to help, so now let's talk about how are we going to break the culture of silence.
Right.
Thank you.
Wibara, I mean, I want to hear, just responding to what she says concerning, yes, we know this is the problem. These are the problems that we know exist, but what are we doing about them? Institutionally, individually, from people who are watching us. And I want to hear from, the prosecution part, because you play a key role. That institution actually determines, in many cases, whether someone, a victim, is going to get justice or not. And in many cases, most cases have been lost based on that issue of lack of evidence. So where is the challenge for you as an institution in ensuring that if that thing is done, then you'll be able to pin more people? Because you mentioned, and people are surprised, that whatever is written on social media cannot really be used as evidence of sort. Are these things that you'd like to see changed to allow, to make it easier to net people? These are the things that we want to hear. I mean, where is the real issue for you?
Thank you very much. Answering her question, how are we going to break the silence? I will answer it with another question. Do we have actually complete silence? The answer is going to be no. Because when we started portraying the statistics of rape cases, child defilement, and other gender-related offenses. So this is a question that was asked way back, and it has been answered. How has it been answered? Through the laws in place. We have been having so many amendments of laws and other laws that help to eradicate this scourge. We have institutions in place, I will not repeat them, the police, the prosecution, other stakeholders, gender monitoring, and other civil society organizations. Even churches are involved in that. But where is the problem? That's why I'm going to say. So the silence is already being broken, but we cannot say we are already perfect. It is a continuous process that needs to be worked on. So reporting on social media doesn't mean the institutions have failed. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that it's actually showing one way of breaking the silence. It means there's freedom of expression. People can report to the legal mechanism in place, but even they can go to social media without fear of any repercussions or consequences for for what they are doing, or sometimes it is because of the trauma that is attached. So if we see this reporting, we see the cases that have gone through the judicial mechanisms, through the police, right, to the prosecution, to the courts, that is increased reporting. And if we see what is going through the media, it is actually showing that people are becoming aware of their rights, and they can use the available, the traditional and non-traditional channels to air out their views. But, so it doesn't mean actually that there is complete silence, but people have recognized their rights. And why have they recognized their rights? It's the political will in place. Everyone is receiving, victims, they want to hear what is the problem, what is happening. But that doesn't still mean that everything is going on well. That is why if you when you showed the conviction rate, we saw it for child defilement at 80%. It's not a bad thing, but let us look way back. What did we have? If we go back to 2001, you will find that the conviction rate would be 50%. But now, because people are now learning, the silence is already being broken. People are being taught how to report their cases. So that is why we are seeing early reporting, and then we secure convictions. That is why all these institutions are here. They are to work for the victims. We have a gender-based violence desk, which is to help such victims. The police already talked about the Isange One-Stop Center and other institutions. So I think the silence is not just going to be broken. It has already started to be broken, but we have a few cases. We don't want it to be at only 80% conviction rate. We want it to be at 90%. If you look at other offenses like voluntary battery and injuries, we have 99 conviction rate, 99% conviction rate. But why? They are committed in public. We have evidence. Remember, our evidence is witness testimony, most of it. So that is going to be easier to secure conviction, which is different from these sexual-related offenses, which are committed in privacy. And remember, most of our evidence is witness testimony. It is the victim and the perpetrator who is denying. So if the victim doesn't report, how will the police intervene? How will it go to the scene of the crime? Because they will not even know the crime has happened. So there is that role of the victim and the institutions also to take their appropriate position.
Right, but we seem to be throwing in the towel and saying, if the victim and the perpetrator, neither of them has reported, then how are you going to know that this case happened? I mean, for some people, they would look at this as a sort of defeatist kind of attitude. Instead of us saying that, why don't we now change the tactic and say, let's encourage more eyewitnesses or people who witness this or people who know about this to actually be the whistleblowers. And then the police can jump on board and say, you know what, let's jump on the beat on this one. Prosecution says, okay, we're going to pick each and so that we get to a point whereby even if someone did not come to report, but at least there are people around who started that conversation that led to the nabbing of this particular person.
You're absolutely right. That's what we are encouraging. We go to different schools, to different public places, encouraging and inviting people to report GBV cases that have happened. We encourage people to go through the evening parental forums, which is commonly known as Umugoro w'Ababyeyi, so that if you cannot report to the appropriate mechanism, at least go through that. They will help you reach the appropriate mechanism. So that is what we are calling on people to do. That is the message we are preaching, that people, witnesses should report that. If the victim and the suspect, of course the suspect will not report that case, then what about the surrounding environment? So that is the message actually we are spreading. So we are not only involved in prosecuting cases of that nature, but we are also carrying the message of prevention. Yeah.
All right. I want to read some tweets, and then when we come back, we'll definitely just move this conversation forward. We have people who are actually tweeting us and telling us what they think about this. I have Dennis Hirwe, who says, I think having the social media publisher of fallen pledged cases would help. Perhaps they have a real reason to convince the public on how good it is, though hard. The so alleged victims partake may be sounded to looks an infinity discussion. All right, definitely it is a very long discussion. We have another one here that says, how are we going to help a kid to come and report her father, a girl to report her uncle, a wife to report a husband? These are questions right there. Another one from Richard Bishuba says, Judy Kaila, you look suspicious on In Focus. you're not asked to be silent. Break the silence responsibly and smartly. What do you have to say about that?
It's funny. Well, I don't know why he said I look suspicious, but I want to talk about what she just said. She just said that if we look back in 2002, we might have 50% of conviction rate, and today we have 80% of conviction rate. So does it mean if today we have 80% of conviction rate, should we be satisfied with that? Should we just stay quiet and say, oh, since we have managed to go up and really have people come out and speak, should we just stay quiet and say, oh, we have already broken the silence? Should we ignore that people have chosen to go silent, anonymous on social media? I think that's something we should really talk about. A woman to go be anonymous on social media and talk about her pain. Listen, to talk about rape from a victim point of view, it's really hard. It's not something that you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna be okay to go and tell everyone at the police. Maybe I may say, maybe the woman knows my mother, and I haven't really talked about it with my mother because I don't want
So
my
what do we do?
So that's
what
the
do we
thing.
do then?
Well,
I mean, do we give up? Do we say, I can't go to report the police, they know my mother, I can't
No.
go
So
put my
the
name out
thing
there?
is-
What do we do then?
What we do...
Anamga, let me just come in here.
Yeah.
Let her also tell us how many people, how many Rwandans are on social media, including the children that we're talking about. How many Rwandans? Why are we're not campaigning for social media here? I mean,
But the thing is, even
how
if
many
it may
Rwandans
be,
are on social media that everybody should
even
report
if it may
on
be
social
two
media?
Rwandans, they are enough to be considered enough Rwandans, their voice to be heard. Unless you said, oh, we're going to ignore the two Rwandans because it's only the two Rwandans down on Twitter. Even if it may be one, and she's speaking on an issue that is related to an experience that she has lived, she is enough that her voice may be considered and heard. So my point is, let's talk on how we are going to break the silence. Let's go way back to sex being a taboo in Rwanda, to the culture of silence, and see if a kid cannot go to tell her mother that she was raped, it's because there are some conversation kids and parents are not having. So how do we have parents talk to their kid so they can create that space where I can go to my mother and say, you know, that neighbor has really touched me in a way that is not good. So, you know, my teacher is really abusing me in a way that is not safe. Let's parents and kids create those safes. And then let's neighbors create those space where women are ready to talk with each other and hold a hand in each other. So when I'm not ready to share my pain with the police, I know another woman is going to hold my hand and go up there and really make me do it. Otherwise, it's going to be like, oh, we're going to wait for people to report their case. How about the person who cannot report? That's the question, and they exist.
Right. But then also there's another issue, I mean, which also plays in question here. The attitude that, you know, someone is guilty until proven innocent. That's the other issue that is actually killing this whole campaign of breaking the silence. And you actually hold that kind of belief.
We have to acknowledge that rape is a very complex matter. It is. So, and there is a very quote that I love that I found on Instagram that say rape is the only crime where the victim is the accused until proven she's not. Because at the end of the day, if I go and report someone, they are going to make me try out of anything to prove that the person is not guilty. And we both know a rape case where it's two people, and I go and decide to talk about it after 4 months, after I have healed and decided that it's time to share my trauma, it's not gonna be easier for me to prove that I was raped. So what is the way we create that those cases are not gone just because they don't have enough evidences? Because rape cases, it's hard to find enough evidences, especially when it's rape cases where it was only the two persons.
ACP, Linda, does it work like
Do you know
that?
the solution for that? You know the solution for that? If you cannot find evidence, it's because you reported late. Please, report early so that evidence can be found.
How about if I cannot report early because I have to deal with the trauma before? That's what happens. Many women who come to speak about rape, it's after they were healed. And the thing is, you cannot tell a victim how to deal with her pain. You cannot. We don't have that right. If I was raped today and I need a whole year to heal and decide that it's time for me to go and speak about it, I need that right. You cannot tell me after I'm dealing with depression and feeling like someone someone has ripped my body away, that I now have to go through that process to prove that he has really done it. I have to find the strength and be ready to do it. So let's talk about it. How are we going to make sure that those cases are not gone? Because those are most of the cases, the 2012 cases, the 2000, many cases, many women,
Alan,
they come after.
does she make sense?
Thank you, Anangwe. I think we need to continue communitizing our community awareness initiatives to ensure that the parents, the children are dialoguing, to ensure that these forums that Dr. Charity was talking about, Mugora Wabye, are working, because these are forums at the village level. And they also look at issues of gender-based violence. They discuss about that. We can't say that we are going to handle the issues without reporting, because we have reporting as a channel that is going to help us access the services. So how do we make the community able to report and to report on time such that they are supported? I think we should use the social media in the other way around, where we make the communities aware, where we make the users of social media aware that they have to report report on time.
Yes, but the issue is here, I mean, how do we deal with this issue of late reporting? Because it's here with us.
Anangwe, as I said, it's all about making the communities aware that they have to report on time. And I think that is being done, and it is a continuous journey. We can't say that we are where we want, but it's work in progress. And we should put more efforts to ensure that these people are reporting. Yes, they report on social media, and they report late. And when you report late, I can assure you, you're not going to get the services. So how do we make sure that in that process of healing, how do we engage people around us to help us report, even when we are like, we are not going to report? Considering that when you don't report, or when you report late, you're gonna not access the services. So I insist on reporting. I insist on breaking that silence. Though it's hard, you're a victim, but consider that when you don't report, then the effects are going to be
worse.
Yeah, they are going to be worse.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Let's use these community initiatives around us. They are there. When we talk about reporting, it's not police at the national level. We have the structures built up to the village
From down.
level. Yeah, so
right.
Let's use those forums where they are not, where we are not supported. Let's know where to take it forward, such that we are helped. Yeah. Otherwise, we are going to be victims, and when you don't get the services, you're victimized. So how do we help ourselves when you're a victim? How do you ensure that you're not going to go through the victimization?
Yes.
I think Afande Linda talked about Isange. When you go to Isange, you find all services. You get the holistic services. And that was to help victims, not to go to multiple stakeholders to get the support that you need as a victim.
Right, Alan, I don't want to cut you short because I may have to do that. We are running really out of time. But of course, I want us to use the few minutes that are remaining to look forward. I mean, I'll start with you, Afande Linda, because I'll take that as your closing remark. Afande Linda, you know, this issue of dealing with the people who probably have cases that happened 10 years ago, they haven't come out, and they were feeling like they want to come out. And probably they're feeling that if I come out late, then I might be told, why are you coming out late right now? And probably they'll feel that that kind of approach might be dealing a big blow to that struggle for more people to come out, whether it happened many years ago or even today. So how would you convince them that whether it happened many years ago, you can still come out, we can still help you? Just a few minutes. Tell us a bit about how that can be done.
Well, thank you very much. Before I say that, there's one thing that I want to be clear. We have, when we started, we saw the figures.
Yeah.
There's no silence for sure.
Yeah.
We're not at 100%, but at least the momentum is rising. Awareness is rising.
Yeah.
We have a number of cases. When you look at the environment, for example, last year, from Jan to November, we had close to 2,000 cases. So that is not silence. People have come out. I think we should not generalize these things. One case does not mean that all Rwandans are silent. But we still need to improve. And we still need to help some of the victims that are not able to come out to speak out.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And I want to hear from you, your closing remarks. Yeah. Yeah. Very quickly. Yes, we're going. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to emphasize the message that there is need for immediate reporting. Because when you do late reporting, it's not that you're going to fail to get justice, but most likely the evidence has disappeared. And like she was saying, that cases of 2012, remember, it is 2 people. You don't have witnesses. If you do that, you could carry out the investigations. You have 1 testimony. But how do you get the scientific evidence? Years have passed. And remember, you have to link for rape cases. You have to link. You could prove that someone has been raped or has been violated, but how do you link the rape with the suspect?
Right.
So that is why we are calling for people to do early reporting for scientific evidence like DNA. We have a collaboration agreement at NPPA with Hamburg University in Berlin, which carries out our samples for DNA, and then they can link the suspect with the victim who committed the rape.
Right.
But if you don't do that, the scientific evidence is when someone has bathed, when the clothes have been washed.
It would be difficult to do that.
Disappeared.
Judy Kaila, in 1 minute,
Yeah.
from someone who's out of these institutions, if you are now watching this show, do you feel more convinced to break the silence if today, God forbid, you were to undergo sexual violence? Do you feel you're convinced?
Well, I feel 50% convinced that I will go to the police as me. But as someone else who is afraid, I'm talking about a 14-year-old who has been raped, and she's afraid to let people know that she had sex because her mother will get mad. So she will decide to keep it to herself because, like, if I go to the police, they're going to ask me to bring my mother, and my mother is going to know I've had sex, and then it's going to be a whole drama. I don't want to go through that, so I'm going to keep it to myself. Maybe after 6 months, she found out she's pregnant. Now she has to abort, and then all those kind of drama. So for me, as I want to leave this woman who are doing an amazing work a question as for me as well for my work, to ask ourselves how we're going to create spaces for women who feel like we want to speak out and keep it private because we don't want other people to know that we have been gone through that. So let's talk about that. If it's making sex talks available around kids or schools or communities, I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's go and talk about that question.
Perfect.
And then break the silence.
Perfect. Afande Linda, how late is late? This is a question someone is asking. When is a case considered reported late?
When evidence is lost.
When evidence is lost?
Yes.
1 day, 2 day, 5 hours?
For the rape victims, the earliest, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it happens immediately, just call.
Just
report.
call, just come, you'll get all the support.
Right.
From the police.
Rama says-
You can even call the toll-free lines that we have.
Yeah.
We have 116 for for children. We have 3512. We have 3029 for Isange, and also for gender desks across the country within the police stations.
Right. Perfect. Very interesting one here, but I don't know why he says this. Same old song from the third government spokesperson or spokeswoman. Report early. It is a harmony out there. The problem is they don't account for trauma. They need to deal with trauma. Justice is second. I think you all agree trauma has to also be dealt with.
I talked about it. Trauma first.
So that means we need to think of another part 3 of this particular conversation. I mean, it's a big, long conversation that will never end right here. It can never end right here. So that's why I want us to keep talking through whatever platforms we have. If it is back at home, if it is with your colleagues back at work, if it is on social media, keep talking. For those who are tweeting, hashtag InFocusRW, let's keep chatting. And of course, let's work on breaking that silence. Let's deal with those issues. And of course, we'll see you again, same time, same place. That's all the time we had for this conversation right here. We will decide how to continue moving forward. But thank you so much for being a part of it. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.
43% kw'ijana by'abanyarwanda bangiza ibidukikije bacana amakara n'inkwi. Mu gukemura iki kibazo twiyemeje guteza imbere ibikorerwa mu Rwanda ari nako turengera ibidukikije cyane cyane amashyamba dukoresha amakara ya briquette akorwa mu ibarizo. Reka ngurugero rwiza, uzi ko ukoresheje amakara ya briquette bihendutse inshuro 3 ugereranyije n'uwakoresheje ubundi buryo nko gucana inkwi, bikaba bihendutse inshuro 2 ugereranyije n'uwakoresheje amakara asanzwe. Nawe birakureba iwawe mu rugo, amagereza, ibigo by'amashuri, inkambi z'impunzi n'ahandi. Ku bindi bisobanuro wahamagara briquette zacu zemewe na RSB.
Rondair, renowned for its tremendous ability to fulfill your dreams, invites you to connect more with your friends and family in Europe with 3 weekly flights to Brussels, one of the most popular cities for the African diaspora. Take advantage of the exquisite service on board our punctual flights, connecting you to over 22 other destinations in our fast-growing network.
Rondair, fly the dream of Africa.
Well, hello there. It is the 21st day of January, and he's hoping that you had yourselves a lovely wind down to your weekend. Let's go straight to what made our top stories tonight. Team Rwanda rider and Tour de Rwanda reigning champion Joseph Areruya made history in the Sunday's final stage at the just concluded Tropical Amisa Bongo cycling race in Gabon. 18 youth who were serving their respective sentences in Nyagatare Juvenile Prison after displaying